Alright, this is Critical Thoughts on Macbeth. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've read scholarly articles and books on Macbeth, and I've summed up really briefly what they have to say about Macbeth.
The learning intention for this activity is to challenge your understandings and beliefs about Macbeth, and the success criteria is that you will have considered different scholars' interpretations of the text and improve the clarity of your own interpretation and reading of the text. So you have a task to do, and your task is to rule up 2 columns and record a paraphrasing, so to summarise it in your own words, of the scholar's statement in the left-hand column, and in the right column write whether you agree or disagree with the scholar and why.
So scholar statement number 1 is by A.C. Bradley, and he claims Macbeth had yearned for the crown before the play, which describes why his mind turned so quickly to murder. So in your opinion, did Macbeth think about murdering people before the play began, or was the first suggestion provided by the witches?
His mind does turn pretty quickly. So the second scholar statement is from a person called William E. Kane, and he suggests that Macbeth creates a sense of a text that precedes it, and that Lady Macbeth seizes upon this opening rather than creating it. So do you agree or disagree, and why?
The scholar statement number 3 is Robert Hellman, and he believes that the use of perspective makes us agree with the murder. We are complicit rather than seeing it as a simple melodramatic treatment of crime. So because we are led down Macbeth's perspective, when the murder happens, it makes sense to us and we see it as reasonable. And complicit means basically we're present at the scene of the crime. Do you agree with this or do you disagree?
Scholar statement number 4. So Steven Kolber suggests that the saintly King of Scotland is unlikely to remain king for long, and the heirs of Banquo and all of the devices for his removal are already in place. So do you agree or disagree, and why?
So 5 is Stephen Orgall again, and he believes that violence precedes the text and will continue after. So just as Macbeth had to kill someone to become king, and King Malcolm became king after Macbeth was dead, he believes the cycle will continue on and on and on. And that the kingships will all be quite small and short-lived due to the violence of the time.
Scholar statement number 6. Serdar Ozturk believes that Macbeth is basically good, noble and admirable. Highly contentious. Do you agree or disagree, and why?
Scholar statement number 7 is Harold C. Goddard, and he views Macbeth as a struggle between devils and angels for the possession of man's soul. So there's the theological reading. Do you agree? Did you pick up any references to this in the play? And do you agree or disagree? Number 8 is John Holloway, who states that in the combat between Macbeth and Macduff, it is made plain that Night's black agents, which is a direct quote from the play, are the fallen angels, the power of Satan himself. So do you believe that Macduff and his soldiers, cronies, represent fallen angels or Satan? Yes or no?
Number 9. Jan Cott remarks that Lady Macbeth demands murder from Macbeth as a confirmation of his manhood and almost as an act of love, and that the two are sexually obsessed with each other. And I know there's a lot of theories. There are a lot of theories about their relationship and the nature of their relationship. So is it an act of love? Are they totally obsessed with each other, and that's why the murder happens? Agree or disagree, and why?
Number 10, Ian Robertson sees a perverse passion as the source of Lady Macbeth's influence over her husband in the murders of Duncan and Banquo. And the quote he wrote is, "The scene in which Banquo's murder is envisaged is a kind of love passage between the Macbeths, of which the natural consummation is the murder."
Similar to the last one.
Very similar to the last one. So he's basically saying that the murder is a sexual act, whether they had sex before or after, or it's just some strange metaphor analogy that Shakespeare's using. Do you agree with this idea or not?
Number 11. D.F. Rauber comments on Lady Macbeth's strategies of questioning Macbeth's manliness. He or she says her attack is saturated with sexuality and her main weapon is clearly a kind of sexual blackmail. So she obviously is very manipulative, but is it a sexual manipulative as well? 12
is Jan Cott again. She believes that there is no inherent good and evil in the play, but rather the system of kingship forces people to act out the goals of kingship. So she says there are no bad kings or good kings, there is only the king's situation and the system. So this is similar to one earlier, but it's obviously also saying violence will proceed and follow after the play. but it's saying that the cause of the violence is the system itself being flawed, and it just means that there will be endlessly be blood on the crown of the king.
Number 13, Abraham Stoll thinks that conscience is so equivocally and chaotically communicated in Macbeth that it fails to produce a coherent other as a witness and thus to bring about repentance. In plain language, he thinks that no one really appears to have a conscience that intervenes in their plotting and planning of the murder, so there's no conscience. Lady Macbeth doesn't have one, and Macbeth doesn't have one either.
14 is Kevin Curran, who believes that Shakespeare depicts a form of criminality without need for conscience. There is no thought, idea, then action, but rather the crime of murder is one fluid and naturalistic act, perhaps like an animal, with shame and regret coming only later. So you might want to go back and read the scenes preceding the murder and see if there's any actual thought process, or if they express aloud what they're thinking of doing, or if it's just a sort of animalistic rushed act.
Statement number 15 is by Francesca Cauchi, and she believes that Banquo is a foil for Macbeth, in that Banquo is a stock goody character, whilst Macbeth is plainly the evil baddie character. So I suppose it's all about the archetypes and stereotypes of the goody and the baddie. 16,
A.C. Bradley again believes that Banquo ultimately yields to evil when he does not tell of his concerns about Macbeth's wrongdoing, and therefore Banquo is not the moralistic good foil to the corrupt Macbeth. So this is the exact opposite to the previous person, and it says that Banquo had his suspicions about Macbeth all along, he didn't make them known, and as a result it shows his slip into evil or into wrongdoing.
Number 17. Ellen Spolsky posits that the primary conflict within Macbeth is a communicative one. Lady Macbeth and Macbeth do not communicate effectively, and each have different aims and images of success when planning and plotting the murders to follow. Interesting. Interesting that they have communication problems when all they do is communicate throughout the play. Do you agree or disagree?
18 is Alexander Isayevich, who believes that Macbeth's conscience devoured him because he had no ideology, no spiritual strength. So obviously you can sense his bias already. He's probably believes in communism and so forth, as he has his ideology of his own. Maybe he's a religious man. And that without a religion or a sense of ideology, Macbeth has no moral fibre and no core. And as a result, it's inevitable that bad things will happen to him. 19. Mary McCarthy disagrees with the conception of Macbeth as a conscience-torn man. She believes he has no conscience and that his main concern throughout the play is getting a good night's sleep. I like this one. Do you agree or disagree? Good night's sleep is very important. Alright, number 20. George Williams believes that Macbeth is a play written to flatter and praise King James, who was the king at the time, so much so that it negatively impacted the coherence of the play's plot. So he's suggesting that he started off trying to make a play that would please King James, which would give him money and so on and so forth, and as a result that's why the plot of the play is quite complicated. Maybe there's more scenes or acts than there should be, and it's hard to follow. Do you agree or do you disagree, and why? And these are all the references, the things I read and where I got these quotes from. If you'd like to read them in your own time, you can. Enjoy!